Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We will get started in just a few minutes. If you could mark your attendance, and if you have any items you want to discuss today with the group, add them in the open section.
Probe. The meeting invite on the OpenSSF calendar still
I've
linked.
heard of it.
Yes, still has the meeting notes link that is the go to this other link, meeting notes link. Oh, wait,
Cool.
no, actually, hold on. I may be wrong. Nope.
I just went through that sequence and you are correct.
Okay, I was wondering because I have the copy on my calendar too, because that's yeah.
I'll make it my top priority to send an email to operations after this call.
Perfect. Get them to operationalize.
Although if you were interested in doing such a thing, I wouldn't be opposed.
I already had to harass them yesterday about deleting hiding an entire staff repository that I had a bunch of issues in that was used to track my work.
So that'll be something I will get around to in a little bit. More importantly, though, if anyone has any items they'd like to add to the agenda, I have pasted a link to the actual agenda. Please mark your attendance and add anything you desire to discuss today. We'll get started in just a minute. I am now out of coffee.
That is a travesty.
It is. Well, I've had 40 ounces, so I guess I'm probably okay. I'll survive somehow.
I don't know. You stop the flow of coffee and your heart might stop.
Might. I guess I'll move on to water. Which coffee is mostly water. But so is bourbon, which is great. So maybe I'll just switch to bourbon. It's a good time for it.
Now, I know there have been studies debunking, because they used to say coffee and tea were dehydrating. There have been studies debunking that. However, I do believe that bourbon is still considered dehydrating, but not recommended to drink large quantities.
I'll drink more, I'll be less dehydrated.
Addison, if I do say that necklace looks lovely with this, the look you got going is great.
Oh, thank you. I just finished giving a 2-hour-long presentation.
Yes. I was like, she probably isn't dressed up for the likes of us, so.
No, I promise this was all for you. I promise.
What did the presentation go well?
It went very well.
Yay!
Speaking of presentations, welcome to the June 14th edition of the Vulnerability Disclosure Working Group. Do I have someone that is interested in helping us take notes today? Please.
I want to volunteer my mentees. Either you all want to take notes for us?
Oh, thank you, Andres.
Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have any new friends today? Is this your first time visiting us? And did you want to introduce yourselves?
I keep crashing these OpenSSF meetings as I'm getting, situated, and so I don't even remember if I've been to this meeting before or not. But I do see some new faces. So hey, I'm Josh. I work in OSPO at Analog Devices. I'm not going to use the same lame joke that I have been, Crow, because I know you've heard it a lot. So so have you, Jonathan. But yeah. So I went to the OpenSSF day at the Open Source Summit recently, and my bosses were like, "Hey, if you're interested in that, keep doing it." So here I am, getting plugged in. Couple weeks in now, and loving it. This is a great community, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Welcome.
It's
Thanks.
trying to be fun. We don't bite hard. Only at conferences. As long as it's over here, as long as you stay over Zoom, you're good.
Yeah, gotcha.
Any other new friends?
I guess I'll,
Yeah, go for it.
yeah. So hi everybody. I'm Hart. I guess I've been floating around the OpenSSF periodically, but not I think this is the second time I've joined this working group meeting. But yeah, so I also work for the Linux Foundation. I work mostly on Hyperledger and Open Wallet. And we're looking at rolling out a vulnerability disclosure policy for those projects. So I was hoping to get some feedback from you all. That's why I'm here.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We certainly can help with that.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Any other new friends that wanted to say hello?
Hey, I guess I joined this meeting earlier, and so that's why I'm not new, but I'm Arun. I'm joining in to listen into Hart today.
Excellent. Welcome, Arun. Glad to have you. Roger Dodger, if you have any opens you'd like to talk about, add them in the open section. I only had one item today I wanted to briefly discuss. As Josh mentioned, we just had an amazing OpenSSF day in Vancouver at the North America Summit. Well, fun fact, we will be holding an OpenSSF day in Europe in beautiful Bilbao, Spain. And there is currently a call for papers open. So not only would I encourage the group to consider submitting for talking there, but I had an idea, potentially a slot to talk about this working group and maybe showcase two of our little projects, OSV and OpenVex. And if anyone was interested, patches are always welcome. I would look for contributors and collaborators to assist if somebody feels that's something interesting, or if you have other ideas, feel free to submit them and we can also help you there too. Any questions? There will also be, it's very late in their day, but we will also be holding an OpenSSF day in Japan again towards the end of the year. So you'll hear more information about that if anyone is interested. That will be opened up. I think they'll probably start announcing that later this summer. And I think that'll be towards the end of the year, like December, November.
If we were interested in helping with OSV or OpenVex, how would we go about doing so?
About the presentation or the projects themselves?
Or the projects themselves, but happy to help in any capacity.
Yeah, well, I absolutely can make a love connection, introduce you to Oliver and team for OSV. Oliver and Andrew are the primary folks behind the project. They're out of Australia. So I would point you to, I'll give you some links to the project, but we technically will have a call with them hopefully on June 29th. We have an APAC focused call version of this meeting. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern. So it's, I think about 9 in the morning for Australia. So that's been a fairly agreeable time. So that would be a great place to talk to OSV. Otherwise, I can make some introductions. They have a Slack channel and whatnot. And then OpenVex, you just missed the call. We had one on Monday, and our next OpenVex call will be on the 26th. And those are at 3 p.m. Eastern. And Puerco is out of Mexico, so I believe he's like Western time zone. So he'll generally be on the active in the Slack around then. But we again have a Slack community, and I can point you to the repositories for that project as well. Participants are always
Thank you.
welcome. Any other questions about that item before we move on? All right. I imagine Jonathan put the next item in. I can't tell though, because there's no one's name next to it, but I think Jonathan put this next item, clarifying a line or two in the outbound vulnerability, the VDP.
Indeed. So as happens after you publish something, you get people coming back and be like, hey, this line doesn't make any sense. So I know we spent all this time chewing on this document. I got a bit of feedback from Tim McCormick when I posted this in the Boston InfoSec Slack channel, where this sentence he said was unclear. Originally it read, if a project responds to the private report within 21 calendar days, the details will be publicly disclosed, shared with the defensive community, 90 days on the public, 90 days, after 90 days on the publication date. And he said this is unclear because it's not clear if it will be 90 days, what he asked. Find the question that he posed to me. He said, is that 90 days from the notice date or 90 days from the response? Assuming the first, but should be clarified. Right, so it's not, the disclosure will occur 90 days from the response, or it'll occur 90 days from the original disclosure date, not 90 days from the day that they respond to you back on. So I think this clarification makes more sense. Is there any dissenting opinions or otherwise comments on this about these proposed changes to the policy? Crow, you're muted.
I think after notice date helps clarify it. I would also suggest a delightful diagram, maybe a little timeline to show the timing to illustrate the words.
Okay, I'll consider that. Was not part of my plan, but yeah, maybe.
It'll take hundreds of hours to draw a line with some
Oh my
hashes
God.
on it.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. I'll think about that. But yeah, in general, besides the feedback of wanting hash marks on a straight line, anybody else have any concerns about this change before we commit it and say, hey, I don't know, this is probably not a change that needs the tax approval, correct? No, okay, yeah. Anybody else? Are we good with, is there thumbs up around for adding this as the change that we make to make it clearer? You seeing any thumbs down, Probe, in the call? Because I'm not. Great, perfect.
Can you do a thumbs down?
No, but I mean,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I mean, people can say no. People can shake their heads.
I could do frowny face.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
When I do thumbs down, it blurs it out, so it does not exist.
All right. Their other comment was all parties, maintainers, as well as researchers must act responsibly. The comma was confusing here, making it look like a list of parties, maintainers, and researchers, which it is. I think it is a list, right? All parties, maintainers, as well as researchers must act responsibly. Or is there no comma? I don't know, syntactically.
What's the statement again? I'm sorry.
All parties, maintainers, as well as researchers must act responsibly. Is it appropriate for there to be a comma there?
I'm a fan of the Oxford comma. You put it at the end of every item in the list.
Right. Is it a list though? I think it's a list.
It's more of a parenthetical.
Or do we have a comma here that's wrong?
So all parties must act responsibly. And you are defining who the parties are, maintainers, researchers, etc.
Okay, so this is not a comma, or the comma is fine.
Yes.
Okay, great. Final thing, conflict. Might be explicit about what a conflict means. We kept a conflict intentionally vague to allow flexibility for changes in this, so I think that there's not a reason for us to make this. To change this from being vague as it is. Because there was intentional vagueness here. Is that, do you remember that, Crow? Does that line up with your understanding of the world?
Yeah, I don't mind conflict. And Madison actually had a suggested edit for your comma problem,
Oh, all parties involved,
including but not limited to.
all parties involved, okay.
Yeah, it's a little wordy, like a little policy feeling, but I think
Yeah.
addresses the concern with the comma.
All parties involved, that's the word I'm looking for. Including but not limited to.
And then remove the comma after two. I don't have a problem with conflict. You know, it could be a mild disagreement. It could be timing, schedule conflict. It could be, I like the vaguer word.
Yeah.
They can't get the reproducer to work, but whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Would maybe a good way to address that not be in this document, but maybe in some of the guides we've written, like here are examples that this can fail or reasons why this might fail. Not that that needs to be in this policy, but maybe addressing that elsewhere would be helpful.
That's excellent feedback, Madison. I like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That's it. Just going through those. I will ask the operations team to redeploy the changes to some of these sentences into the publication version. We did not, it was on the tax schedule to say, hey, where does this document go? There's an issue with the TAC that is asking them where this document should live. People have not necessarily been great at responding. We had a little bit of conversation. It seems like there's the foundation is the likely location for it to live. Is that Crow, is that your read of that long thread, or is that?
Yes.
Okay. Should we just go with that, or do I need to get the TAC to like affirm that that is the decision?
Do it.
Okay, great, perfect. All right, I will deploy it there then. All right.
I'm going to thumbs up Amanda.
What?
The last comment I thumbs up.
What? Where? Which one? What? What comment? Where? What am I seeing?
At the bottom of that TAC issue.
Oh, okay. All right. I will. Great. Thank you. Can you post the TAC issue? Because I can't. If you're already on it, can you post the chat? Because
I'm everywhere. I'm ubiquitous.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you. Okay. All right. That's it for me. Thank you all for your time. Let me stop screen sharing. Okay.
All right. So what other items would we like to discuss today? Art.
Well, I don't want to hijack your meeting, but if you all are done with your regular business,
we are.
We have, based on your sort of template, we have created a sort of guide for, for vulnerability disclosures for projects in Hyperledger.
Mhm.
We found that we have a lot of projects. Not all of them have security experts. And so we asked people to sort of do something, and they were like, well, this is a lot of work for us. Can you just give us something with like some multiple choice options So that's what we tried to do. I'm going to post a link in the chat.
Please.
I can also post it in your Slack. I think I joined. But we would love your feedback. And yeah, that's just about it. If you think there's some things we did wrong, which there probably are, you know, we would just appreciate your thoughts. So yeah, and yeah, you all are well. You know, if you like this or this turns into something like useful, you know, we're happy to, you know, have people reuse it as well.
Awesome. All right, I am signing into the Googlers. The Googlers. The Googlers.
Now I have Fiddler on the Roof stuck in my head. I don't know why. The mama, the mama.
All right. So does anyone have any initial feedback? I know it's hard to be put on the spot.
Yeah. So
Does anyone have any initial feedback? I personally like the approach, and I think we definitely can provide some assistance. I will commit to taking a closer read and then providing some comments throughout the week.
that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, we don't expect anyone to do this live on the spot. But yeah, we're just looking for feedback. You all are the experts. So
Hart, do you guys, is it Hyperledger, so this is an OpenSSF project or no? Sorry, this is a Linux Foundation project or no?
yep.
Okay. Have you spoken to David Wheeler?
Not directly about this, but many times, yes. in general.
Okay, David Wheeler is working on a proposed disclosure policy for all of the LF.
Okay.
It's high level. That's first comment. Second comment, does Hyperledger run services that are not just the open source software that is hosted on GitHub? And does the disclosure policy cover that?
We don't run live services, so just software.
So just software. Okay. So if you were running live services, you know, you're not
Yeah.
running your own CI/CD pipelines, you're using GitHub Actions, you're not, you
Yes.
know, you don't have any of your own infrastructure that's being hosted by the LF for you.
I don't think any of our critical infrastructure is hosted by the LF. Now we have a bunch of different projects and a bunch of them do it differently. Like, you know, some people use Circle CI, not GitHub Actions, but you know, that sort of thing.
Okay. If you do find that you're running services, one of the things that's important to handle in disclosure in policies also is, if it's just software, if it's just open source, if it's just code, then that's fine. If you're dealing with like services and potentially like misconfigured DNS infrastructure, stuff like that, a safe harbor policy is also important to include, to say like, hey, you can find vulnerabilities in our infrastructure, our website, our stuff like that, and that is, we waive CFAA and stuff like that. But if you don't have a website, you don't have a code, you know, it's all just the code, then that's probably not as relevant.
Well, we do have a website, but it falls under the LF. This is for the individual projects to do. Like they don't have a lot of independent stuff. So this is just for like, I'm project X, and this is going to be our disclosure policy for our code. And we have it a little bit flexible because all of these projects do sort of different, they have different choices, they do different things. Like some are, you know, extremely secure applications, and some are like things that, you know, don't really touch security all that much. So
I posted a link. We actually do have an issue about the OpenSSF foundation-wide kind of pushing out a security MD. That's issue 128. Luigi is currently shepherding that, and I'll reread that, and then I'll reflect upon your document, Hart, and see if there's opportunities to provide you some good feedback there. And then the idea was that's where Wheeler is, if we're going to do it for the OpenSSF, why don't we up level that to the whole LF potentially, is having this template that people can use as a resource.
We might want stuff that's a little bit more specific than
Absolutely.
applied to the whole LF, but yeah, it totally get the principle.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the idea behind even like our CVD guides is it's a baseline. You start off, you tailor it for your particular project's needs.
Yeah. And we just ran into the issue that like some of our projects were having a hard time doing it from scratch.
Yeah. Much easier to start with some nonsense on the whiteboard than a blank sheet of paper.
Yep.
And if you have any feedback too, as like somebody who has gone through the guide and is actively trying to develop policy from it, if there's any improvements we can make to any of these guides to also make that process easier, I would be deeply interested in that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, the feedback we got was just that people wanted a template, that they wanted like, they didn't want to have to write it. They wanted like, they want a multiple choice sort of cut and paste. And we wanted something that was, flexible enough that people that knew what they were doing could, could write their own stuff, and people that, didn't could just follow the policy. I mean, we have one project that has something like 7 or 8 intakes, I think, for bugs. So it's, they obviously like, they have to have their own sort of system, but
yeah, absolutely. And we want to provide to all levels of folks, whether they want the easy button or they want to kind of roll up their sleeves and hammer on something special. Awesome. Any other feedback or comments for Hart? Again, I'm going to take a look at both our issue and then your document and provide you some feedback. And I would encourage everyone on the call to do the same. I'll send a note out actually to our mailing list, encouraging folks that are on the call to potentially also take a peek and give feedback.
awesome. Thanks a lot. We appreciate all your help.
Glad to. Are there any other topics we would like to discuss today?
I was just sharing a link of the software requirements document that the Omega toolchain engineer mentees are doing for the summer. So essentially, we're just trying to connect the Omega analyzer using also the assertion framework into one Serif report and then uploading that to our triage portal. The mentees are currently working through the document, finalizing the requirements, the security requirements, testing, and so forth. So if you are interested in providing any feedback for the mentees, we're welcoming comments in the document.
I like the diagram. Ooh, 2 diagrams.
There's 3. There's big picture, and then I took into individual components. So any feedback or input for the mentees to help them with this would be greatly appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Yessie. Any questions about the Omega Engineering Mentorship Security Requirements document? All right, folks. Last call. Any other topics we would like to discuss today? Otherwise, we will adjourn a little early.
I'll
Did
just
we-
make a note. I'm planning to apply to B-Sides Edmonton and tell people they should have vulnerability disclosure programs. If anyone else happens to also be in Edmonton, I guess let me know. I see no other reason why anyone would come up here to Edmonton.
I bet my old boss, Vincent, might show up. He lives in Edmonton.
Did we end up deciding whether or not AO or this working group would own the disclosure tooling that Scovetta wrote?
We did not make a decision. It looks like Mr. Scovetta made a decision.
What? Oh, I mean, he asked me to own it. I guess I'm owning it as Alpha Omega. I just, unless we want to own it collectively.
No, I thought the group was agreeable to it, but we just don't have a ton of developers here that were interested in taking on the maintenance. But I have no problems housing. I think it's a useful tool, adds a lot of value. You don't want me developing anything?
Yeah, I basically told Scovetta that sure, I'll own it, but he needs to commit to code reviews within 24 business hours of my code changes going in. And he's like, can you get Yaseni to do that? And I'm like, no, you wrote the code base, you've got to do the code review.
Peer
So-
review, one of the strongest controls in application security.
Yeah. So yeah, you're welcome for getting that off of your plate as an item that you don't need to own directly.
I'm always open to reviews, but not within 24 hours of business.
Yeah.
I have my own review policy.
Yeah. So that's-
Again, I don't think we were opposed to it. And I would suggest let's send a note to our mailing list again, because there's like 50 to 60 people on the list.
Is there a requirement for the working group? Like, wasn't there some discussion with the TAC around like an open source project that is under the TAC needs to have a certain number of maintainers for it to like be mature or something like that?
Yes.
Or how many is it?
You have to have at least 2 organizations. There's a whole like code donation process.
Oh. So it's easier for Alpha Omega to own it because we can be 2 people that own a lot of code instead of having to
La
be.
la 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 la
Instead of
la
being
la
in-
la la.
Yeah.
There is a documented process I would encourage you to look at, and I would encourage you to send a note to our mailing list because more people are on that than are on this call. There might be a developerologist that is interested in helping assist with code reviews.
Yeah, I think that the OpenSSF's requirements for needing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maintainers on any project is too high because it's not how actual open source gets developed.
I appreciate that feedback. I have minimal ability to adjust that.
I know. Expire. Okay. That was topic number 1. Topic number 2. Do you want to do work or sub working group SIG updates?
If somebody from a SIG had a update they wanted to share, I would allow that.
Are there any other SIGs that are here besides me?
Nope.
No. Okay. Well, I guess I'm the only one running a SIG. What happened to Vex? Where's Vex? I would expect. Don't you run Vex, Chrome?
I don't run Vex. I participate in the Open Vex.
Okay, what's the update from Vex? Open Vex. Give us a spiel.
Well, all of our calls are recorded and are available on the OpenSSF YouTube channel. Just this week, we talked about making adjustments to align the OpenVex spec with the officially released CISA Vex minimum requirements. So that I don't know if that PR was merged yet or not, but that is in flight. So we will have complete agreement with the mothership, so to speak. And the crew is looking at a way to unify. There are more people interested in participating with OpenVex than join the phone call. So we are looking to try to find a way to unify all those folks and try to give them a forum to collaborate. So like, for example, so I think somebody wrote a .NET version of OpenVex, implementation of OpenVex in .NET. We had somebody that I don't know if they did it in Go or whatever, but so we have a couple different people working on different ideas. So that is in flight, how to unify that development community. And then next time will be our evangelism call, where we will talk about strategies on how we will evangelize the use of Vex throughout the ecosystem and engage with tool suppliers like SPDX, Cyclone DX, security scanners, other foundations to kind of get increase the usage of Vex throughout the ecosystem so that we can start to evaluate how the heck we're going to take actions from that information.
Does OpenVex handle, is it just CVE numbers or is it also like scanner results? Like if you have a static code analysis tool that spits out a result about an open source project, does OpenVex also handle, I was having a conversation with somebody who's doing some contract work for the LF on building a dashboard for vulnerability information for open source. And he was like, oh yeah, OpenVex. And I'm like, I thought OpenVex was only for like declared vulnerabilities in like from CVEs or stuff like that.
I believe you have to have some vulnerability identifier so that everyone understands what you're talking about.
So it doesn't handle
that
like
does not necessarily
arbitrary-
have to be CVE.
But there's no, is there any support for like arbitrary file line number has scanner result that flags this thing and that's not a vulnerability? That's why we have an OpenVex statement in it, or is that not an OpenVex scoped thing?
That is an excellent question for somebody that's much smarter than me. And
Okay.
I would encourage you to ask that in the OpenVex Slack channel, and maybe Puerco or Rose, the developers might be able to answer more quickly for you.
That's good to know. I have to have an identifier. Thanks, Yodam.
But yeah, so OpenVex is continuing to meet, and we're bifurcating the call, focusing on technical, and then also focusing on evangelism. So we'll be alternating between those two topics in assorted meetings.
Cool. All right, I can go for the autofix disclosure SIG. I have been actively working on this code base for the open auto vuln disclose state machine, which is taking that flow diagram that I've presented a couple of times and turning it into an actual disclosure flow for how we handle things. Crow, code. So there's this whole assignment process of code that's under a working group for new code coming in that's being IP assigned. What about code that's like fresh code coming in being developed as a SIG? Is there like requirements around needing multiple organizations involved in those code bases as well? Or is it just code coming in that's being donated?
The review process is like a copyright and licensing review typically. So if somebody's donating software, I don't know that we have a process that legal looks at code we've developed.
Okay, so it's like fresh new code that's coming from an OpenSSF staff member. That's probably, I don't know who. I guess the question is, this is a code base. I'm developing it. I have a repository under OpenSSF. I don't know if it's Alpha Omega owned. Probably is right now. Versus is it owned by the SIG because it's kind of related to the deliverable of the SIG.
I am unable to personally answer that question at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, there's code being worked on. And I don't know who owns it, but currently me. So to the extent of whoever I represent in the hat that I'm wearing in the moment, which may be that SIG and maybe the Alpha Omega team. Yay, ambiguity.
Well, and we have an assortment of tools already in place. So I would encourage you to look at some of the working groups that do tools like Scorecard, OSS Fuzz. Those are existing projects, so you could see what they are doing, and if that's something you want to open source or not.
If anybody wants to write code, and I'm looking for assistance with writing a client for Gmail to tie in for disclosure, like automating disclosures via email and sending emails to people in an automated way. And I'm also looking for, I can probably do the GitHub side, but if anybody like really knows GitHub's, or if anybody really knows Google's Gmail API really well and wants to help me out with automating emailing infrastructure, your support would be greatly appreciated. I can give you a set of things that need to get done on that side. I see nobody jumping for joy. Ooh, I want to do Google. Ooh, I want to do Gmail. Ooh, let me help you. No, okay, all right. All right, that's me. That's the update. I'll see you all at the SIG call at 2 o'clock today.
And we do have that call later today. If anyone's interested in the auto fix portion of our work, Jonathan runs that. That will be at
PM Eastern.
3 p.m. Eastern.
What?
What? 2 p.m. Eastern.
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Eastern.
Eastern.
Yeah, not 3. Don't ruin my internal clock.
2 p.m. Eastern.
I'm gonna go try to go sailing it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
3. I'm trying
And
to
I've
go
got a
sailing
call with
this afternoon.
CISA about open source and operational technology. That'll be riveting.
If anybody's in Boston and wants to go sailing this afternoon, barring the thunderstorm that may be coming in, send me a Slack DM and we can maybe go sailing. I'm going out on my Hobie Getaway catamaran.
Sailing aside, any additional topics we would like to discuss? All right, folks, thank you for your time and attention today. Hopefully join us this afternoon with AutoFix. Otherwise, we will talk to you in a future meeting time. Enjoy the day, and please give Hart's document a little review if you can. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.